Guys, this Friday night at the Ben May Main Library, we are going to have a drive-in movie. It's Friday night, February the 26th at 6:30 p.m. And you get to get in your car and just drive up and watch the movie. It's for free. Now, this movie is based on a book. I pulled the book off the shelf and read it recently because I wanted to see what the book was like for more information. So let me tell you a little bit today about the book and the character in the story, Hidden Figures. This is Hidden Figures, Young Readers Edition by Margaret Lee Shetterly. She was a New York Times bestselling author. And we're going to just start today with setting the scene. And the main characters are Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Christine Darden. And they all loved math. Do we have anybody watching today that loves math? Can you wave at me? Do you like math? Is math your favorite subject in school? You just love it when it comes time to do math? As children, these women, Dorothy, Mary, Katherine, and Christine, loved math, and they showed special skills in arithmetic. In fact, they went on to study mathematics in college. After graduation, they worked as teachers before going to work as computers or mathematicians for the government's Air and Space program. How exciting! Doesn't that sound exciting to anybody out there besides me? Over the years, hundreds of women worked as mathematicians for the federal agency called NACA. Has anyone heard of NACA before? That's the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which researched and promoted the study of flight. But these women were among many who distinguished themselves with their talents and hard work. So let's just take a look at each one of them for just a minute. Dorothy Vaughan. She was a pioneer. She joined NACA in 1943, the first year the agency began hiring African American women as computers, and she was the first to be promoted into a management position. She was a role model for other women, and she helped to steer the careers of many talented women who were joining NACA. Second, let's look at Mary Jackson. She was the first African American woman to move up the ranks and become an engineer at the NACA. She was a fighter, standing up for herself and for other women who deserved the chance to prove themselves. Her work helped to make supersonic aircraft fly higher and faster. How cool is that? Katherine Johnson, the third character here. Katherine Johnson was an African American woman who became an essential member of the team that put the first American in orbit around Earth. She was a dreamer, an independent thinker who was unafraid to imagine what others considered to be impossible. Good for her. She helped to do math that was required to send the first men into space and to bring them home safely. That's important. And then our fourth character here. Christine Darden was an African American woman who became one of the world's leading experts on supersonic flight. She became the face of the next generation of female space scientists. In her groundbreaking research on predicting sonic booms, it's still used today. The accomplishments of these four women were remarkable, but their work was even more impressive because it was achieved while living and working in the South during a time when racial discrimination was commonplace and when most women with an interest in math were expected to become math teachers. So the time that they were living in, some of the background here setting the scene, there were regulations that were commonplace in the South that kept black people and white people apart in many situations. So they were facing things like they could not eat in the same restaurants. They could not drink from the same water fountains. They could not use the same restrooms. They could not attend the same schools. They could not ride the same parts of the buses. Remember the story of Rosa Parks? During the same time period that these women were being computers for the NASA or mathematicians. They could not live in the same neighborhoods. They could not receive care in the same hospitals. They could not visit the same beaches. They could not compete on the same sports teams. They could not sit in the same sections in movie theaters. They could not marry someone of a different race. There were so many they could not. And these women rose above it. And this is a remarkable story, just reading this book of all these things that these women accomplished. And there were, things that they did for NASA and sending the Apollo missions to the moon and back in the space program. Many people back then asked why there weren't any black astronauts. And they asked, why were there only a few black engineers or scientists working for NASA? African Americans believed that outer space belonged to people of every race, and the space program should too. Not many of them knew that in Hampton, Virginia, African American women like Katherine and Dorothy and Mary and Christine were working hard using their mathematical talents to help the United States. But now their story is told, and you can read all about it in Hidden Figures. This is the Young Readers Edition by Margaret Lee Shetterly, and it's available from your Mobile Public Library. And I'm finished with this one, and so it's going back on the shelf, and you can check it out and read it.